Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty fundamental, an idea that might really shift how you think about progress.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We're diving into Tim Jackson's Prosperity Without Growth. It basically asks, what if this thing we've always chased, economic growth, isn't the answer? Maybe it's even, holding us back.
A really challenging book, but in a good way.
Definitely. Okay, let's unpack this. For so long, growth has been the goal, right? Progress equals growth. What's the main barrier Jackson sees to us even questioning that?
Well, he argues pretty forcefully that the planet itself is kind of showing us the limits to growth. It's not just running out of stuff, but crucially our ability to handle the waste, the pollution.
The absorption capacity.
Exactly. Our current model, just chasing GDP growth, it just doesn't line up with those ecological facts.
And he doesn't really buy the tech fix argument either, does he? This whole myth of decoupling idea that we'll invent our way out of the environmental impact while still growing endlessly.
No, he's quite firm on that. Tech helps, obviously. But he argues it's just not happening fast enough or deep enough to let us keep growing materially forever without, major consequences.
So if endless growth isn't the path, what is prosperity, according to Jackson? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Right. What's fascinating is how he totally reframes it. It's not about money or stuff, fundamentally. He talks about human flourishing, well-being, fairness, strong communities, having a sense of purpose.
Flourishing. I like that.
Yeah. And he makes this point that, look, once your basic needs are met, getting more wealth, more material things, it doesn't really make people happier or more satisfied. There are diminishing returns.
Which makes sense intuitively, right? But it creates this huge dilemma of growth. Our system, our economy, it feels like it needs constant growth just to stay stable for jobs, investment.
Everything seems wired for it.
Yeah. But that directly clashes with living within the planet's means. And then he brings in the iron cage of consumerism, that feeling.
Yeah.
It's so relatable.
Oh, absolutely. That cycle of wanting, buying, getting a temporary hit, and then it fades. And we're encouraged constantly through marketing, social pressure.
Keeping up with the Joneses, basically.
Exactly. And Jackson links that directly. This raises a key question, really. Have you ever felt that? That getting more stuff just didn't deliver the happiness you thought it would?
I think most people have, if they're honest.
And that's Jackson's point. Our goals, what we're told to aspire to, they're kind of misaligned with what actually leads to well-being and what the planet can sustain. It's a tough cycle to break.
Okay, so if we're stuck in this cage and growth isn't the sustainable answer, what's the alternative? How do we build an economy that does deliver that flourishing he talks about? He offers a framework, right, for a post-growth economy.
Yes, he does. He lays out some key foundations. First up is something called ecological macroeconomics, which basically means building ecological limits right into the economic models from the start.
Not just treating pollution as some sort of side effect, an externality.
Yeah, precisely. It's about designing the system finance, investment, so it respects those planetary boundaries inherently, valuing clean air as much as profit.
That's a huge shift. And it connects to where we put our money, too. He talks about investing in social goods.
Right. Shifting investment away from just producing more things and towards sectors that are, as he says, material light and employment rich. Think care, craft, education, culture.
Things that boost well-being without costing the earth so much.
Exactly. And tied to that is rethinking work, maybe shorter work weeks, sharing jobs, giving people more time for community activities, for life outside the market.
Which also helps tackle inequality, another big piece for him. How does that fit in?
Well, huge disparities in wealth drive unsustainable consumption, particularly at the top end. So addressing inequality isn't just fair, it's actually necessary for environmental reasons, too. Less pressure for everyone to constantly consume more.
Makes sense. And what about the financial system itself?
That's his point on financial and fiscal prudence. Reforming finance to favor long-term, stable, sustainable investment over, short-term speculation, using taxes and government spending to actively support sustainability.
Okay, so we've got ecological economics, social investment, rethinking work, tackling inequality, financial prudence. One more key piece.
Yes, and it's vital. Strengthening social capital. fostering community connections, shared resources, local resilience. Think tool libraries, community gardens, local cooperative.
Things that build well-being and reduce our reliance on just buying more individual stuff.
Exactly. It builds resilience and shared purpose outside of just consumption.
So taken together, it's a fundamental rethink. Jackson's really calling for a paradigm shift away from this obsession with growth above all else, redefining what progress even means.
Absolutely. It challenges us deeply. And maybe a final thought to leave people with, if you connect this to the bigger picture, what's one small shift you could imagine, maybe in your own life or your community, that start to prioritize that kind of flourishing, that purpose over just accumulating more? What does growth really mean to you?